sound to make the floor burn.
The mixing board has been fully cleaned. It's looking pretty good now. I just soldered up that part of the board there just for the conductivity, as it seemed to be important. And the actual amp boards are looking all nice and shiny and everything now as well. Obviously completely aesthetic, cosmetic, but I feel like if you look after these things, they perform better. So I'm going to test this out before I put it all back together again, so that we can see if there are any issues with the channels here, because we're going to donate a couple of these to the master output controls. So let's turn it on. Oh, that's good, we have power line. Crackling. So, what I'm going to do here is test each of the channels. Just take that down a bit. So I'm just going to turn up the volume on all of these. Now what we've got here is pan at the bottom. So that tells us that it's feeding output to both the channels and that there is input on both channels as well. This next line is for the effects. We don't have any effects sending at the moment. That's the bass. Now because these pots are dirty, it is crackling quite a bit. That doesn't mean it's not working, it just means it's old, which we like. Yeah, these are the sensitivity pots. They're kind of like the gain. They're tricky. So that channel's good. Next one, channel 2. Whoa! Tell you what, this is probably. I was going to say this isn't the best tune to use. LFO has some obscenely heavy bass. Okay, that channel's fine. Pan. Anyway, that's how we test it, and then at the end of that I'll know whether it's in full working order, but it's looking pretty good so far. There were 2 channels that weren't working, so rather than troubleshoot those, all I've done is I've taken the variable resistor sliders off those channels and taken off the old broken ones from the main channels and swapped them over. So now we've got 2 redundant channels, which is fine because this is an 8-channel mixer, and now all we do is get the contact area nice and hot so you can just put the solder on and it flows from the actual metal contact itself, not the soldering iron. So then you know it's hot enough, and then you know it's going to flow. Not quite picked up there, and then it should cover the entire pad. And there we go. Spot the difference. Those are the 2 that I removed. Those are the 2 resistors that I removed. And there is the 2 new ones. In order to get all this cleared up and not have too many projects lying around, I'm just gonna, you know, put it back together, actually use it, have some footage of it in action. Obviously, as soon as I put it back together, it stops working properly. I lost the left channel, started exhibiting exactly the same behaviour as the channel that I downloaded the potentiometer from. What would happen is, I could tell that there was input coming in because the peak LED would light up if I pumped up the gain, which meant it was getting a signal, it's just it wasn't getting to the output, and it wasn't registering on the LEDs either. So this is how we find out whether it's working or not. I don't know if I can do this one-handed. Give it a go. We have infinite resistance on both terminals. That's with the slider down at the bottom. Now let's switch it to the top. It should be 0 resistance. Still infinite. Now, if we go to the right channel and we do the same thing, you can see the resistance is 2.4. That's because it's just below the top. If I push it up, what should I see on here? That's right, 0. Ta-da! So that pot is knackered. And that's good news, because it means that whichever channel I took this from has a problem with the potentiometer, not with any of the other electronics. RS have a similar thing, but not the precise same thing, it seems. Dunno. But if I can order a couple of those, then I can replace them and not have to worry about donoring, and then we'll have a complete unit. So the struggle goes on. I might just nick one of the potentiometers from another channel in the meantime, just to get it working. Because beaten up as it looks, it works. Well, even though I thought it would work, you're never quite sure until you actually do it, and sure enough it did work. So obviously that pot has some issues, which is weird because it wasn't working, and then it was working, and then it wasn't working. So now we've got 3 missing. So maybe I'll get around to replacing those. In the meantime,